Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of The Mandalorian Season 1 on Disney Plus. And I was able to get a free month of Disney Plus because of my subscription to Game Pass Ultimate. And I was just like, alright, how can I line this up? So I pretty much waited for pretty much Season 2 of The Mandalorian to wrap up and for them to be pretty much in the middle of WandaVision. So that way I'm able to get those two seasons in and then also finish out WandaVision. But I had seen this before, and at least the first season, and I got a refresher because I'm like, all right, second season, see kind of where this is going, and I'm like, yes, okay, this was pretty good, and I enjoyed the feel of The Mandalorian Season 1, and I would definitely recommend it because it definitely has that old school kind of original trilogy Star Wars feel to it, and it also brings in a lot of different kind of fan service kind of elements and kind of cameo kind of things that they do, and I thought it was a pretty good kind of Western take. Well, not Western take. There's always Western elements in Star Wars, but this one focuses, of course, on a Mandalorian bounty hunter and all the things that ensues with it. And an interesting kind of aspect that this one does is that it is more episodic than I thought it was going to be. Even though there is a main thoroughfare plot line going through, that one goes pretty much heavy with the plot in the first couple episodes. And then we get into pretty much our different kind of episodic things and the shenanigans going on. And then we kind of end out with kind of the wrapping up of the main plot. So you kind of have characters that come in and aren't really as fleshed out as they could be, but that's mainly because they are in pretty much by episode basis, kind of. But the two main characters that we really get nice character development on are, of course, the Mando and the child. Because in the beginning, we are pretty much introduced to who he is kind of as a bounty hunter. He's actually we see his evolution actually throughout the show because we understand that Mandalorians, as this show kind of goes on, are more of a creed than like a people, and if a Mandalorian kind of finds you, it's their duty to either like get you to someplace safe and with your own people, or when you reach the age and you choose to join the Mandalorians to, of course, get you in there. Now, we learned throughout this first season that there was a purge on the Mandalorian warriors because they were some of the most fearsome in the galaxy. And this has led to their traditional armor of Beskar steel being pretty much very rare because Beskar steel is pretty fucking good. So we see him, and mainly his helmet's pretty much shiny, and the rest of it's kind of beaten up and everything. Kind of like it can't take some things. It's like, okay, it'll take a couple hits before it's like, oh. So we see him, he's pretty much chasing this bounty puck. And we're introduced as like, okay, you get a bounty puck, you get a tracker that pretty much hones you in on what the target is. And he gets his bounty, he takes out a group of assholes pretty much trying to take the bounty. And, of course, we see him get in onto his ship, the Razor Crest, which is evidently an old ship that was pretty much even old when the Clone Wars were pretty much going on. And he takes him, delivers him to Navarro with the main bounty chief of Grief, Karga. And he's like, hey, look at the Mando, man. He gets it all done. So they've got a very good relationship because he gets his bounties and gets the status of the guild really good, so that way they get, of course, more bounties, more things going on. And he's like, all right, here's all these, and they're pretty much small time. He kind of wants stuff to like help out his Mandalorian brethren because we see that after he goes to the meeting for this kind of off the record kind of bounty, and he's given kind of partial payment because they're like, all right, we can't really tell you much about what the target is. We just know it's 50 years old, and this is honed to do its biosignature. Have at it, kind of stuff. They've sent other people, and these, of course, are former Imperials. This is set 5 years after Return of the Jedi, so seeing former Imperials like this and wanting to go after something, it's like, okay. But the price is right because it's pretty much Beskar steel that he's going to be giving him, and he's like, this is important to the Mandalorians. And we see that they mainly stay underground, go up only a few at a time, And our main kind of entry point for learning kind of more lore about the Mandalorians is the armor, talking about, okay, this is pretty good. This can make you like a pauldron, and maybe your signet is revealed. It's like, no, not yet. So she, of course, makes it for him, and of course, with what's left over, the rest go to the foundlings. Those are the people that, of course, they find and help. So he's pretty much like seeing what's going on. He goes to the planet where the target is. He's about to go in. He has met one of the locals to kind of get the lay of the land. Queel, we learned his name. He's an Ugnaught. And he's like, listen, everything's been godly unpeaceful because everybody's going after this thing. Can you please kind of like end this shit because you're a Mandalorian? So we get some kind of hijinks, and he's pretty much learning how to ride one of the strange animals and everything. Goes in. He's pretty much surveying the land, but an IG-11 bounty droid pops up. He's like, I'm here to do this, and he's like, God damn it! So he pretty much has to team up with the bounty droid to have this giant gunfight, which is very well done. The Mandalorian knows how to handle himself, but they do a very good job of balancing when he can handle himself and when John McClane kind of situations come into effect where he gets his ass kind of hit. Just showing that he's got skills, but even in some strange situations like being outnumbered and them having pretty much a giant blaster turret trying to kill him, he has to come up with some ways to kind of get everything done. Of course, the door was locked, and of course, they used that giant... If you've got a giant blaster cannon, you're going to use it. So they go through the door, and they're able to find the target, and they find it is this small baby. It's like, holy shit. But it makes sense that it's 50 years old because it's of the race similar to Yoda. And, of course, IG-11 wants to kill it, and we hear a blaster shot, and that's the Mando killing IG-11 to protect the baby. It's like, oh, wow. Now, of course, it's mainly, I think, giving him kind of flashbacks to himself, but, of course, live bounties get more than dead bounties. So, he then tries to get back to his ship, finds out some Jawas are like, hey, guess what? Somebody left this shit here. It's like, fuck. So, he's then trying to deal with them and get them to get his shit back, killing a couple in the process because he's like, fuck this shit. Just, like, we see like his different weapons. He's got his usual kind of like 6-shooter blaster, I'd term it, and then he's got this rifle that he can pretty much disintegrate stuff with. So it's like he's got a pretty big arsenal. Also, his flamethrower doesn't have a jetpack yet. So, oh god, I'm saying so a lot. Well, he pretty much gets losing track of them, and Queel is able to be like, all right, listen, let's go talk to him. I'll try and get your shit back. They're of course freaking out on his ass, but he's like, all right, what do you want? It's like, the egg. It's like, alright, fine. So you gotta go get an egg. So, fine, whatever. So he brings the child with him, and we see that it is the egg of a mudhorn rhinoceros kind of beast, and this is where the Mando pretty much gets his ass handed to him. He is equipped to deal with this kind of stuff, but he thought he could probably get the egg without, like, disturbing the creature, but it knocks him unmercilessly around, and pretty much gets to a point where his rifle's not working, the blaster isn't big enough to pretty much dent him to stop him or her, and he's just standing there with a knife all muddied and his armor all fucked up when we see that the child uses the Force to lift up the Mudhorn, and the Mando, of course, takes this opportunity to kill it and is able to get the egg, but he's confused at what's going on. It's like, this is a lot more than I signed up for. We had also seen that the child does understand the care of others, because before this, he was trying to kind of get up to the Mandalorian and heal a wound because others are still tracking the child as they were making their way to the ship and are trying to get the bounty. I'm like, okay, we'll cut out to see what he was trying to do there. Well, he's able to bring the egg. Those Jawas fucking slice the top and start eating the shit out of it, but they get all this stuff. He gets the Razor Crest back up and running and flies on off. We see that the child, of course, is doing crazy and interesting things because it's a baby. He's trying to figure out stuff. Unscrewing this kind of thing. He's telling him, no, no, no. And the thing is, it's a very good balance because He, of course, is the stoic kind of bounty hunter, but the thing is, the child is adorable and is just trying to figure stuff out. It's a baby. And the thing is, you have to be very careful with having babies involved in stories like this, because if you go too overboard, everybody's like, oh, this is too cutesy. They have the right balance of cute with the child. It's not like it overpowers and completely takes over. They're able to do their stories effectively and have their action sequences, and then every once in a while he'll do something kind of cute, like messing around with the electronics and the Razor Crest, and it makes the ship go cool. He's like, don't do that, nope. So you just see him just take him, put him into such a place. It's like, fine, whatever, just be quiet, be cool. And it's just kind of cool to see their relationship grow, because like, oh, that's awesome. But he gets to the place and he delivers the package and he gets the Beskar, and we see that the child is like freaking out because the one person that he has gotten accustomed to is now leaving him with these people, and the Mando doesn't feel good about that. He's able to take the Beskar to the armor and gets pretty much almost all fitted out with Beskar armor, looking very nice, I might add, and getting like whistling birds, which are these interesting kind of like guided missiles that we will see used shortly. And of course, Greef is like, hey, you want something? I mean, you're the talk of the town. You delivered the bounty that nobody could. You're decked out in Beskar steel. Why don't you take a break? He's like, did they say what they were going to do with it? Like, nope, didn't ask. Didn't offer either. And of course, it's eating at him, and he just can't take it, so he decides to do something about it, and he assaults the former Imperial safe house and is able to get the child out of there, using, of course, his new weaponry and showing off how badass he is. This, of course, goes against the guild code and sets him off against Greef and the rest of the bounty hunters. He gets into a sticky situation where him and the child are pretty much out in the open. He was trying to get to his ship to leave, and of course he needs help, and the Mandalorians provide, because that's what they do. So they give him cover, he gets off planet, and then the next couple episodes are kind of just their own kind of self-contained stories, as they still kind of link to the narrative. They try and get onto a backwater planet to kind of ride out the heat, and we get introduced to another character, Cara Dune, on this backwater. It's almost kind of like Andorian forest kind of world. But the problem is, there's also a village there that has run afound ground of a problem similar to the Seventh Samurai Magnificent Seven. Raiders have come in and keep stealing their shit, and they've got advanced weaponry and don't give a fuck. Well, he's trying to hide out. He, of course, has a scuffle with Cara Dune, who is a shock trooper who used to work in the Rebellion and kind of a little bit in the Republic. But the thing is, she didn't like the new work and just pretty much got her way out. She's like, I'm not with this. So she's trying to hide out as well. I have nothing really against Cara Dune's character. It's just, I know that there's kind of more that they can do there. But the thing is, she's not the focus, if that makes sense. She does become one of the important supporting characters in there, but I kind of would have liked them to delve a little bit more into her. But the main focus is the Mando and the child, so they're always the anchor point. So if it would break anything with that anchor pair, I'm fine with what we've got. Well, he's pretty much getting ready to go off planet, but of course two of the farmers heard that there was a Mandalorian and were going to offer everything that they own, of course, money-wise, to get him to help them. But he's like, is it really out of the way? He's like, yeah, alright, give me that. Let's go. He just gives the money to Cara Dune to help him out. So it's just mainly the two of them and the farmers having to deal with these characters, these raiders. So we see that pretty much the Mando kind of hits it off pretty well with this widower and her daughter, and everybody, of course, we get the children being like, yay, the child. He's like, yeah. He's like having a ball and everything. He fucking eats like... We see him doing some interesting stuff of like pretty much swallowing a whole frog whole, like on the planet where Queel's at. It's like, okay, he knows how to do some stuff. Well, they decide to go do some reconnaissance and find out that the Raiders have an AT-ST. That, of course, changes the whole ball of the game right there. So they decide to pretty much dig a trap to try and take out the ATST and pretty much bring the Raiders to themselves. So the Mando, we find out that his name is Din Djarin. Him and Kara decide to go and pretty much force the Raiders to come to them. Granted, they were just going to blow up kind of their drink tent, because they're taking these blue fucking things and making some kind of drink out of them. However, they have a kind of fight sequence there that gets pretty hairy, but they're able to get out and hold their ground. Kara and Din are able to get it into the effect where the ATSD gets down. They're able to take out the main leader, and the village is saved. They're pretty much thinking about what's kind of going to happen. We learn a little bit more about the whole Mandalorian code, where Din does not remove his helmet in front of others, even to eat. He usually does it by himself, because that's the way. You don't take off your helmet unless you leave. Well, he's pretty much thinking about what's going on. He's thinking of leaving the child there, so that way it's safe. But we see that there's another bounty hunter homing in on them. Kara is able to take them out. They find out that the tracker is still going after the child, not on Din. So he decides to leave, and she's like, yeah, I'll just stay here. He decides to go. Let's see here. We also get sprinkling throughout a little bit of backstory as Din is having flashbacks, and we see that during the Clone Wars, him and his family were attacked by the Confederacy. Of course, battle droids. Pretty much explains his distrust of droids. He gets put into like pretty much a kind of like little cellar kind of thing, and he's about to. His parents are presumed killed, and then he's almost killed by a super battle droid when the Mandos show up, find him, take him, and of course induct him in the Mandalorian way. That's just pretty much, we get that mainly at the end of the season, the full story on that, but that's where it's needed. So shifting now, he then goes to Tatooine because they get like fucked up, so he needs someone to repair the ship. So he teams up with a bounty hunter, New Boy, to go after this tough bounty of Fennec Shand, who is played by the actress that did Agent May in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She doesn't get really to do much here. I mean, granted, she's really got good sniping skills and beats the holy fuck out of the new kid, but I'm like, shit, really cool to see more of her stuff, because the child is being looked after by the harbor master, or it wouldn't be the harbor master, dock manager, because that dock has like that person like, hey, why don't we gotta like fix this stuff up? No droids. All right, fine, do it herself. Well, they're able to track her, and they have to, of course, figure out how to get closer because of her sniping skills. So they alternate shooting flashes to do flares to stop her from being able to track them so well. The Mando does get hit, but we see that the newbie able to get the drop on her. He's able to then get up there as she's whooping his ass. They hold her, but the thing is they only have one speeder bike, so they got to figure out that way. Mando goes off to get the dude back, but Fennec tries to pretty much talk it into effect that the new kid, if he wants to make himself legendary, he should turn in the Mando and the bounty that's with him that he burned the guild for. He's like, yeah, okay, fine, but I'm just going to be legendary myself, and shoots her and leaves her for dead. He then gets back to Mos Eisley's port, and the Mando's like, shit, sees that Fennec's shot, and rides off on the dewback, gets there. He's pretty much got the dock lady and, of course, the child. Like, yeah, I'm going to be legendary, ha 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 ha, kind of shit. He tells the dock lady to, of course, handcuff the Mando. He still has the flare, is able to flare it out, and takes him out, because fuck that shit. Gotta protect that kid. He then rifles around in his belongings and, of course, pays off the lady. Yeah, that's cool. And flies off. Now, the interesting thing is, at the end of that episode, we see that somebody is approaching Fennec, and that's about all that we get. So I'll have to kind of see what's going on with that in Season 2 or whatnot. Uh, Episode 6 was kind of like a weak spot for me. Now, granted, I enjoyed everything up until this point, and I still enjoyed this one, but this one was just kind of really strange. The Mando pretty much gets tasked with, like, not tasked with this group that he used to run with. They're doing a prison break. They think, of course, that somebody else has captured this other person, but we find out that this person's been arrested by the New Republic, or the Republic. And he's like, this is going to be some weird kind of heat. And they go to do it. He, of course, goes with the assembled crew. We got the kind of mastermind, the crazy Twilight lady, and pretty much the big hulking, beefy brawn dude, who's like, this dude would be bigger or whatnot. And their droid dude, who's going to be flying the Razor Crest because it needs pinpoint holding. They pretty much get on the ship and are able to deal with the different security, kind of cool ass fight sequences that the Mando is able to do against the security droids, because it's pretty much just manned by droids, except for the instance where it gets really kind of hairy. While this is going on, the droid is trying to figure out what's going on and sees that the child is doing some weird shit, and pretty much the child's able to stop the droid from doing this. I don't know. It was really kind of weird why that was going on. I guess it was just a sequence to let the child do some things. And I'm kind of fine with that, but it really didn't advance much or didn't really do anything other than holding pattern and kind of explain why the droid's kind of like not trying to fix the comms. Well, the Mando's group is able to get to the main place inside the ship to kind of figure out what's going on, but they run into a person and he has a tracker thing that a Republic's assault strike force would come and destroy the ship if it was compromised. The Mando's trying to talk everything down, but of course the crazy Twilight lady throws a dagger at him and kills his ass. So they are able to go through, but the thing is, he was able to push the button, so they got a time schedule now. They go and they find the person is Quinn, and evidently it was a burn on the Mando to get kicked into the ship, which is kind of weird. That's the kind of downside to the episodic nature. It's like, alright, we kind of needed a little bit more on this one, but the man was able to figure out his own way to get out of this situation, using a droid to kind of get close and unlock it from there, get back to the security place and kind of mess with and eventually capture all the people and lead them on the ship. Now he does take the Quinn dude and delivers him to the person that pretty much had him for the job, but he leaves the tracking fob that was used for the strike force there, so they pretty much take out that station and get those people done. So it's like, yeah, alright. Now we're into like the final 2 episodes, and this one kind of closes out what's going on. Evidently at one point there was a message from Grief that was sent to the Mando that he has a proposition that things are going a little bit nutty at Navarro and that he wants to talk to him about something. So the Mando's like, alright, this is a little bit weird, decides to get up a posse because he wants to see what's going on, and he wants to make sure that the child is safe. He's not going to be safe if all these people keep hunting him. So he goes, picks up Cara Dune and picks up Queel, and also Queel's kind of like steeds, because he's like, I ain't leaving him. It's like, alright, cool. And the a surprise guest is IG-11. He was fixed by Queel and is now a protecting droid, and can do all this different kind of stuff. It's kind of cool. We see him kind of like learning everything again because the Mando shot him in the fucking head. I don't care who you are. It's gonna fuck your shit up a little bit. So, Jesus. Transitioning. They go to Navarro. We see that Grief has his cadre of people, and of course the Mando's got his cadre of people. And he's like, alright, let's see how this is going, because the imps pretty much took over the town. Here's pretty much what we're going to do. And, of course, he starts bringing up the plan that the child will be left, but they will make it seem like they got the child. They'll bring the Mando to the dude. He kills, of course, the client, the Imperial Warlord, and he should only be guarded by, like, 4 people. Thing is, they kind of stop for the night and get attacked by these creatures, taking out one of the bounty hunter people that are bodyguards with Grief, leaving him with 2. And Grief gets injured. Some of the steeds are lost, and they're like, holy shit. The thing is, Grief is like pretty much mortally wounded, but the child comes up and shows force healing, heals him of that, and of course it kind of knackers him. We see that the child is able to build up more of a stamina to using the force as the season goes on, and it's kind of cool to see this power utilized here, and it's just really nice because he sees someone in pain and wants to help them. The thing is, we've also seen that when the Mando picked up Cara Dune and was arm wrestling with her, he took it as an attack and actually used force choke on her. So this child does need teachings in the way of the force, because we've seen him be able to do light side abilities and now dark side abilities, and that's going to be a kind of thing that's going to be tasked with the Mando to make sure that that doesn't happen. Well, this of course changes Grief's look. The two bodyguards were pretty much going to go after the Mando, but Grief kills him. He's like, wait, we were going to double cross you, but after what the kid did and saved me, I want to help you guys out. So we're going to stick to the plan. Let's send the child back to the ship. Let's take the Mando in. There should only be 4 guards. Take them out. Thing is, Quill is trying to take the kid back to the ship, and that doesn't quite work out. They get into the town and they see all these Imperials everywhere. It's like, well, even though the Republic is a thing, it looks like the Imperials are still around and in greater force than people would have you realize. This was part of the reason why Cara Dune was going to be coming, because at first she's like, I ain't going to help. It's like, you can take out some imps. She's like, alright, yeah, I got that shit. She's like, this is a lot more than you were talking about, man. This is very sketchy. Well, they get in there with the client, the Imp Warlord. He's got at least 6 start to pack up with what's going on. We learned that 2 speeder bike troopers were able to take out Quill. He's dead. And take the child, and this gets relayed to the Warlord. Well, not actually yet. He's still trying to figure out what's going on. He wants to make sure that the child's there, but he is stopped by Moff Gideon popping up and being like, yeah, screw you, and pretty much fires in there to pretty much try and take out everybody. Alright, the Mandalorian Din is able to get out of the cuffs because Greek uncuffed him and gave him the blaster, and they're like, what the fuck's going on? And we learned that Moff Gideon needs the child for something. They don't know exactly what it is, but we know that they're trying to do something with the Force, that they're like, we need to get this we need to mess with this child for stuff. So it's gotta be doing something with restoring Imperial power, possibly tying stuff to the Force, and Gideon is not as forthcoming with his plans until he's like, yeah, we got the asset, so how you want to kind of do this? Well, we see that the 2 speeder troopers have a pretty funny thing of like, hey, can I see it? It's like, no. And they're like punching the kid, and I'm like, you bastards, fuck you. Of course, IG-11 pops up like, you could go kind of screw off. And he like takes him down and is trying to get the child out of there. But he decides to take it to the safest place, which would be with the Mando and the rest of them, going through town, taking out troopers like ain't nobody's business. Gideon pretty much proves his knowledge of knowing who Grief is, who Cara Dune is, and of course Din's name, because he has not gone by any name until this point. It's like he must be in Imperial Security Bureau to have this kind of information. Well, they pretty much are almost going to be like destroyed because they set up an E-Web heavy blaster, but they're able to find a grate that will lead them to the underground, and that'll help them try and link up with the rest of the Mandalorians and see if they can get off planet that way. Well, they start fighting all these dark troopers and all these stormtroopers, and Din gets heavily injured because he's using the blaster, but Moff Gideon blasts the battery pack near it, and it severely injures him. He's got at least a concussion, his head's bleeding and everything. He doesn't want his helmet to be taken off. He's like, listen, get the child out of here, get out of here, because IG-11 was able to get through the grate so they could get into the sewer. And this is important because he wants to stick to the way. IG-11 is like, listen, I'm not a living thing, it's fine with me. He takes off the helmet. We see, of course, who the actor is. Now, it's Pedro Pascal, who's, of course, played in Wonder Woman, 1984. He's been in, like, of course, Game of Thrones as Oberyn Martell, Kingsman, the second movie. And he does a really good job here. It was kind of interesting to see what he could do with wearing the helmet all the time. And I really love his performance, and seeing him kind of like screwed up here while he's putting like back to salve on him to like heal him was kind of interesting. It's like cool. It's a big kind of thing being like, okay, they make a big thing of them wearing their helmets like this. It's like, yeah, they stuck to it. They found a way to still conform to the way. Well, they get in and they're able to kind of muck around, and we see that the armor is there and that a lot of Mandalorians died for the choice that Din made. He, of course, starts flipping out on Grief, but Grief's like, I didn't do this. After you left, we left these people alone. And Armor's like, nope, it's just how it was with the imps. And she's like, show me whose safety deems such destruction. And sees, of course, the child. Talks about how this is the one that helped me take down the Mudhorn. And he's able to do magic pretty much. He's like, nah, the Jedi, the enemy of the Mandalorian. He's like, what? It's like, well, you found him. He's a foundling, so you gotta return it to its people, or until it's old enough to accept the way if it wants to. And he's like, you want me to deliver this child to an enemy race of evil sorcerers? It's like, this is the way. So that's his new kind of task, to deliver the child to the Jedi. And it's like, wow, alright, let's see kind of how this is going, because I want the child to learn the ways of the Jedi and to use the Force and to be a great kind of cool dude. And he is still a cool dude. But then there's also the thing of like, he can become a Mandalorian. And granted, I'm just imagining the child with like the ears and the Mando helmet that he'd be able to get. I'd be like, yeah, that'd be kind of cool. So she's able to make the signet of the Mudhorn, since they are a clan of two, and of course gives a little kind of Mandalorian kind of necklace thing to the child. It says, go. Gets them to the lava flow that will leave them to the lava plains that will get them to the ship. And we see a cool fight scene with the armor just taking out stormtroopers like nobody's business. Even fucking melts one down in her fucking forge. I'm like, badass. And it's really kind of interesting because I learned that the actress that plays the armor played Amara, the darkness in Supernatural. So there you go. Yeah. So, Jesus Christ, sorry about that. Going back to our main group, they're able to get to the lava flows, but the thing is, the droid is kind of mucked up. They're trying to push it off. They're able to blast it and get down, but the thing is, the opening pretty much is swarming with stormtroopers. So IG-11 is like, I gotta protect the child, and that's going to take over the priority. And the Mando tries to talk him out of pretty much detonating himself. He's like, but you also need to be around to protect the child. He's like, well, and I have to do this to protect the child. And he walks out and detonates himself and takes out all the stormtroopers. And I didn't expect to feel that much for that character, but I really liked what they did. And I'm like, wow, that actually worked out very well with that sacrifice. I'm like, did it to protect that child. Well, they get out, and then they run into the problem that Moff Gideon has decided to use his TIE fighter to try and blast the shit out of him. Well, the armor had given a jetpack to Din, so he decides to use it and blasts off one of the wings of the TIE fighter, and it's like, alright, cool. So, everything pretty much gets into effect, and everything's pretty much alright. The stormtroopers are pretty much done. Moff Gideon is out of commission. They try and figure out what's going on. Grief's like, yeah, we'll get everything back to normal. Kara decides to stay around because Grief's going to need some security, but Din has his new calling. He has to deliver the child to his own kind. So, yeah, I'll do that. And they're like, well, you got a place welcome here for you, man. And flies off. And see, the thing is, the child was always trying to play with his ball kind of thing, and he sets up the little container for the child, unscrews it, and lets him play with it. It's a small kind of character thing, but it's big as well because it shows the growth of their relationship and how they feel for each other, because the child was trying to heal him in the beginning, and we see the effect of him actually healing Grief, and he does all these kind of things to help out the Mando as much as he can. So they have a really nice relationship and a really kind of father-son dynamic, and I can't wait to see more of that going on. Now, the season ends with the reveal that Moff Gideon has the Darksaber, and that has a lot of ties to the Mandalorians and everything, and him having that is a big kind of thing. So it's like, holy shit, because the Jawas were going after that TIE fighter. It's like, what's his deal with this? Now, I understand that the Darksaber has been in like the Clone Wars and everything like that. Now, I have not watched those yet, but I could watch those at some point so that way I get more of the full effect of the Darksabers thing. But that's the end of the season, and I really liked it because it stuck very well to the themes of being kind of more of the space western kind of space within Star Wars, and while still bringing in the other elements like, of course, the Jedi, the Empire, the Republic, all the different kind of things, and still keeping with that kind of aesthetic of dirty, futuristic things that Star Wars really kind of had as its motif, and really kind of cemented it with the original trilogy, because that's the kind of stuff that you see with the original, whereas in the prequels it's more kind of clean futuristic, that eventually you still see the kind of dirty aspects throughout there, of course, with the Sith, the Tatooine's kind of hive of scum and villainy and all that. But I really liked this in what it did, and really understanding Star Wars and presenting a good Star Wars story. And I can't wait to see where the second season goes. So those are my opinions on the first season. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.